Recording. If you don't mind hitting the record button too.
Yes.
All right. So we start in 3. Hello, everyone. I'm Sumitha, the founder of afunparent.com and your host here at the Positive Parenting Conference. This is the Positive Discipline Tools Masterclass, and our expert guide today is Judy Arnall. Welcome, Judy.
Hi.
So Judy is a certified child development expert, mom of 5 kids, best-selling author of 5 print books on attachment and non-punitive parenting, and the past president of Attachment Parenting Canada Association. Our focus for this masterclass is her book, Discipline Without Distress, 135 Tools for Raising Caring, Responsible Children Without Timeouts, Spanking, Punishment, and Bribery. So in this masterclass, we will review some of the tools from her book. The first segment of this masterclass will focus mainly on tools for parents of little kids. And in the second segment, we'll look at some of the tools for parents of older kids. One thing I want to note before we start is that all of our tools are going to be non-punitive. If you're not still clear about why punishment is not such a good idea, I highly recommend watching the masterclasses, the other masterclasses in this track, the child discipline track, or in our previous track, the connection-based parenting track. You can also post this as a discussion in our Facebook group, Positive Parenting Village, if you want to talk about it with other peers. And of course, the book on which this masterclass is based, Discipline Without Distress, has an entire chapter dedicated to that. So be sure to grab one of those if you're not yet sure about why punishment is not a good idea. All right, now that we have that out of the way, it's time to dive in. Ready, Judy?
Ready.
Okay, so when it comes to embracing positive parenting, earlier is better, right?
Yes. Yep.
So you have tools starting all the way from 0 years old, like teeny tiny babies, infants. So at this point, it's not really about discipline, and the word tools is not really in the same conventional sense of the word, but it's as important and it's as effective going forward, right? So the first one I want to talk about here is fulfill your infant's needs. So talk about this tool for us.
Okay. So when we used to teach baby and child classes, we get to the discipline part, and there's parents there with little 3-month-olds, and they say, "What do you mean discipline?" And when they think of discipline, they think of punishment. But if we think of discipline as teaching, well, yeah, then it starts at birth. Okay. So fulfilling a child's needs. And what I'm going to do when I talk about tools today, I'm going to relate it all back to the brain, because it's really important to understand why children do the things they do at certain ages. It's all brain motivated. So I didn't have a picture of the brain with me right now, but if you look at the hand model of the brain, this is the brain stem. This is the cerebellum. These are all hindbrain functions that a baby has. So when we talk about their needs are not wants. They are needing sleep, food, touch, attention to just get on their daily business of living, right? So so that's what we do is a lot of baby books that I have read tell parents that babies are thinking of ways that they can get you to pick them up and take them into the bed with you. And those are really higher order thinking skills. Those are manipulation skills, which babies, toddlers, preschoolers do not have. Okay. So in meeting their needs, what you're doing is they have a need, a sensory need, they cry, you pick them up, you feed them, you put them to sleep. It's just good parenting, and it's discipline by response, I guess, what Yeah.
I love that, because this is an antidote pretty much to some of the misinformation that's out there, right? Like the cry it out method, for instance. So when my baby was born, I mean, she's now 11, but 11 years ago, I didn't know any better. So I go online and I look up sleep training, and the first thing that pops out is cry it out. And I put my daughter in the crib and I let her cry. And I probably did this for 2 nights, and then I just didn't feel right about it, so I abandoned it. But to this day, even after 11 years, when I think back of letting my child cry it out, I feel miserable. I mean, I feel so sad. So hopefully, through this masterclass, some parents will realize that that is not, that is not the path you want to take if
No.
you want to stay
Right.
on the path, right?
Right.
Okay,
And
go ahead.
And I did that too with my first son, because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. And it's not, it's a 1 or 2 time thing. It's just a little blip. There's no permanent harm. Where it gets to be causing stress for the child is when you do it night after night after night after night, right? For a long time. So don't worry about it.
So, yeah, exactly. So everyone listening at home, if you've done this, it's okay. I mean, you can.
It's okay.
So we talked about fulfilling your child's needs in the context of sleep here, but this is pretty much every situation with an infant and a small baby. The first line of defense, first tool that we reach out to is to see how can I fulfill this infant's need, right?
That's right. And a good example of that is, say you have a 9-month-old and your aunt wants to hold them and they don't want to go to the aunt. So by fulfilling their needs, you're saying to the aunt, she's not comfortable right now. Let's give her some space. So you're meeting your child's needs because they need someone on their side, right? Aunt can take care of her feelings, but you're not giving in, you're not spoiling them, you are not teaching them bad habits that are going to last a lifetime. You are meeting real visceral needs. And it makes them social, emotionally healthier when their needs are met.
I love that you brought that up. So on that note, there was something that came up in our Facebook groups. So that's something I want to bring out here. So for infants who use binkies or soothers or pacifiers, whatever you want to call them, is that fulfilling their need, or should we stop it because it's not good for their teeth? There seems to be conflicting opinions about that.
There is, even among our regional government bodies, there's different opinions. And I like our government because they say you don't have to take away binkies or pacifiers or bottles even before age 5, because the toddler years are very, very tumultuous years for toddlers. They're going through the land of no's. It's really hard for them, and they need a comfort item. And comfort comes through the 5 senses, through taste, through hearing, smelling, seeing, touching. And that comfort provided by bottles or pacifiers or breastfeeding is what they need. They will, now if there's a problem that interferes with their teeth, of course, go with the professional's recommendation, but that shouldn't be a blanket statement for everybody.
Love that. So I want to go back to something you said earlier. You started referring to I can't do that, to the brain model, right? So that brings us to the second tool that we want to look at. And this starts at when our babies are infants, but goes all the way through their entire childhood. And this is to spend time learning about child development, because knowledge is power, right? So talk to us a little about why this is such an important tool.
Well, it is, because then it gives parents an idea of what to expect at what age. Can you expect your 3-year-old to judge traffic to cross the road? No. What age does that come? At age 9. A lot of parents don't know that, right? So for us to say, well, you have to supervise your child when they're near traffic until they're age 9, they need to know that to judge safety. Another big one is that even though children know the no word, they understand it means not do something by about age 3, but they don't have that self-control to not do it. So this is a development issue. It's not a discipline issue. And most parents think it's a discipline. They have to nip it in the bud, or it's going to get worse. That child's not going to listen by the time they're 15. And we say, no, development is all in brain stages, right? The stage here, the stage here, the stage here, the stage here. And those, as children's brains develop from the bottom to the top and from the back to the front, they can listen and understand much better when that prefrontal and the frontal cortex is developed. But they don't have that at age 3 or age 5 or even at age 7 yet. So it helps parents to know what to expect.
Love that. Okay, so let's move on a little. I want to look at a few tools that are great for parents of 1 and 2-year-olds. So this is a time when the child is starting to move and get into things and get into trouble. And around 2 actually has a very terrible reputation, though with my daughter in her tweens now, when I look back, it doesn't look so bad. But for a parent of a 2-year-old, it's probably what's going on, right? Because they're used to this tiny baby. So let's talk about that. So the first tool that I want to look at for this particular age group is change the environment. So talk to us a little about how, maybe a few examples.
Okay, so parents can change the environment quite a lot. What you're doing is you're taking away things that cause trouble. And you're putting things in that make life easier. So for example, if you're going to grandma's house and grandma has no toys, grandma has very breakable vases and statues, what you want to do is put those away high up as soon as you get to grandma's. So take them away and bring a bag of toys or something for the child to do. So you're changing the environment so it fits your child at their developmental level. Okay. And you can use this even in the teen years. For teens, if you want your child to get ready for school, you maybe let them go on the computer for a half an hour game rather than an hour game, which makes them late for school. So you kind of contain it that way. So yeah, it really, really works.
So when you're talking about going to grandma's house with all the breakable stuff, I remembered. So I was taking my daughter to my sister's house. My sister was just married then. She didn't have kids yet. And she had set her house up beautifully, right? So there was stuff all over the place for my daughter to explore. And my daughter was like 2 years at that time. So, but the thing was, my daughter used to be scared of one pair of shoes that she had. I don't know why, but that one pair of shoes scared her. So when I went to my daughter's house, I carried those pair of shoes and we kept it, one in front of the TV cabinet, which had all these glass stuff, and one at the entrance of the kitchen, I think. So she would walk close to it, look at the shoe, and just walk back. That was like a portable baby proofing thing. So it reminded me. So small tweaks like this can make a huge difference. It's so much better than telling your child, don't touch something, don't touch something, don't touch something, when they're already in a new environment, right?
Yeah. Just move it away out of their sight. Absolutely. And that's not to say that they're going to learn self-discipline. That's not the way to teach it, and it's not the time. When their brains are more developed, they are really good at learning self-discipline and not touching, but it's all a stage. Yeah.
Right. So that takes us back to the previous tool that we were talking about, learn about child development, because toddler age is not the time for teaching. Toddler age is better for preventing, avoiding, that kind of thing, right? So teaching can come from preschool and beyond, which we'll talk about in a few minutes.
That's
okay,
right.
So
that's right.
The next tool I want to talk about for toddlers is redirection.
Mm-hmm. So redirection is sort of like changing the environment, but again, you're giving them something more fun to do than what they want to do. So let's say, you know what toddlers like to do? They like to play in the toilet. It's a bowl of water. They don't know anything about germs. They love toilet play. So what you want to do is go to their room, find something way more interesting, get them out of the bathroom and show them the interesting thing is, and redirect them to another room where they can play with that toy, right? And then close the toilet, close the bathroom door. Hopefully you have the bathroom door closed anyways, because actually toilets can be a drowning hazard for toddlers. So they definitely need supervision around water. But it's another example is they see your dishwasher, they're grabbing for that sharp knife, and you get something fun like a plastic spoon or and show them the spoon instead. So get their attention away from the sharp knife. So redirect them.
My friend, one of my friends, when her kid was younger, she actually had a pack of plastic spoons permanently in her purse because her daughter had a fascination for plastic spoons. So pretty much anywhere you go, the easiest way to redirect her child, distract her child, say no to the child was to just show spoon, and she's like, she'd like forget about everything and she'd go grab that spoon. Oh gosh, I missed that age.
And another thing too is if you don't want to keep your kids on screens, don't want to pull up the iPad every time, great things to carry in your purse or your bag is a roll of cello tape, bunch of Play-Doh, markers and paper, pipe cleaners, things that children can play with where you don't want them touching anything in the doctor's office, they have something to do.
Yeah, and they've come up with these aquadoodle, I think that's what they're called, the books where you can use a pen filled with regular water and it makes color on it. I was so impressed. I don't know if they had it when my daughter was younger, or I didn't know about it. But that's right. You don't have to worry about staining anything. You just take a pen that you fill with water from your cup and you're all set. Okay, so the next tool that we're going to talk about is one of my personal favorites. And this is to set up routines, because the habit or the routines that you set up, getting the habit of setting routines, when you do that from toddlers, it goes all the way till they leave your house, right? Because routines are super important. So talk to us about routines.
Okay, they're a great tool. And as people, we all need routines in our lives, right? But back to the brain, if you look at brain cells, neurons connect with each other through axons and dendrites. And the more children experience something over and over and over again, the more the connections solidify, right? So they're repeated, they strengthen. So lots of repetition in terms of telling kids 20 times not to pull the dog's tail. Here we pat gently, gently. And you have to tell them 20, 40 times. By the time that connection gets solidified and they start remembering on their own, right? The other thing about routines is it's a comforting to all of us to know what to expect. And for example, the bedtime routine, if children know every night before bed, they have a snack, they get in their pajamas, they have a bath, they have a book, they have cuddle time, sleep. Now, if you're short on time, don't cut any of those out. Just shorten them. Read a really fast book, but they need that security of routines. And we all do, actually. We all look at routines in our lives and it makes us feel secure. But it's a good technique.
I love that. I love that you mentioned what to do when we're busy, because it's very, very tempting to just say, okay, it's a Saturday, the child didn't go out, we didn't go anywhere, so we're all tired, so let's just skip bath. But you do that a couple of times and that's where you start getting issues, right? So might as well just give a super quick bath, no matter how tired you are, and keep the routine rather than skip something, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so let's move on now to tools for kids who are 3 to 5 years old. So just to mention that everything that we've talked about until now will still continue to work. It's not like you have to change your tools. It's just that as kids grow older, you need more and more tools because A, not every tool will work for every child, and B, the same tool that worked last time might not work right now, depending on what mood your child is in and what mood you're in, right? So the more tools you have, the easier it is to switch and swap and figure out something that works.
Right.
All right. So you say that for this preschooler age, when teaching kind of starts, the most important tool that we can use is staying with a no. So talk to us about why this is so important.
Okay, so it's important in that you maintain your credibility. So kids start to realize that you honor what you say, you honor your promises. If you say no, that really means no. It doesn't mean yes or oh, okay. and what that means for the parents then is they really have to think beforehand, do I mean no? Or do I mean maybe? Or is this negotiable, right? So, and sometimes we just quickly say no, and we don't even think about it. So make better choices next time. Stay with your no. And what that does to children is they know they can't throw a tantrum and you'll change your mind. They know that no is no. So it gives them, I hate to say it gives them security, but they know where the boundaries are, right? And I would say, as much as possible, say yes if you can, right? It's easier to say 20 yeses, and then when you really need to say no for those things like health or safety, they don't want to get in the car seat. Well, that's a biggie, right? You have to get in the car seat. And then they're more likely to agree to that if you've said a lot of yeses. Okay, that's not to say they're going to like that no, but and it's one of the hardest parts of positive parenting, and that's why I say positive parenting is not permissive parenting, because you do say no when you need to, right? But it's when you absolutely need to.
So I want to go back to that. So positive parenting is not permissive parenting. And so we have two things out here, right? Positive parenting is not permissive parenting. That's one thing. And the second thing is say as many yeses as possible. So that does not mean that just because you're not saying no, you're not doing the no. So in other words, you can still say a no without using the word no, right? So instead of saying no cookie, you can say, yes, you can have cookie right after you finish dinner.
Right.
Right. Or there were a bunch of other things. Instead of saying, no, you can't have sweets after brushing your teeth, you can say, oh, but having sweets after brushing teeth is so bad for the teeth. The cooties will come and eat it. You're just not saying the no. You're still not doing the thing, but you're just, I hope that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And you can also explain it. Kids will absorb as much as they can absorb at their age, but explaining why it's bad to eat candy after you brush your teeth is helpful too. It comes across a lot better than just saying no.
Yeah. True. Okay. So the next tool I want to talk about is time in. So will you please explain to us how time in is different from time out and why it's so much better?
Okay. Time out is usually the parent or caregiver sending away the child to do a certain amount of jail time, I like to call it. And it's not used so much to teach the child anything. It's used because the parent's angry. So time in is happens after parent is angry and after parent has got a grip themselves. They have to be calm. So time in is helping then your child to become calm. Okay. So, for example, toddlers having a tantrum in a store and they want a candy bar the parent won't buy. So they're getting worked up. The parent's starting to get worked up with embarrassment. Everybody is getting escalating stress. So what the parent has to do is calm down themselves. So they have to stand there and take a few deep breaths and calm down. And then they have to get the child calm. And that's what we call time in, is getting the child calmed down so that they can be to a point where they can listen to the explanation. So best thing to do is take them out to the car, away from the parent, other people in the store. What I do sometimes too, if my kids are fighting, I'll take each by the hand and we'll go sit on the couch, the sofa, one on each side, and I'll just pick up a book and start reading, and then they're calming down, and then they're calming down. And then the time in is we talk about how we felt, why we felt that way, and what we can do in the future. So time in is very intensive. It's a bit of work, but it pays off. It's like putting money in that bank account. It pays off later.
And if we are at home, we could even create a dedicated calm down corner, right? We could keep some sensory toys in there, some of their favorite books to read, a few lovies. And instead of saying, go sit in the timeout corner, we can say, let's go to the calm down corner and find our calm. And you sit with them and you help them calm down. So the association is good. So it's not, I'm being pushed away and I'm being sent away. They're still like, mommy's helping me calm down, right?
Yeah.
So I can.
Yeah. And that's the major difference, is that the parent, it goes with them. Yeah, the parent's there.
And you don't have to go with them forever, right? I mean, it's like when they're toddlers, preschoolers, you start going with them. But if we've done this for long enough, by the time they're at that school age, they know to take themselves to a place where they can calm themselves down. Like my daughter is a tween now. She'll open the closest book she can find. I mean, it could be a phone dictionary, a phone directory for all I care. She opens it, holds it against her face and says, Mommy, I need a few minutes of reading time right now. Okay, I know I have to back out at this point or there's going to be an interruption. So I'd rather just walk out. So it just build those tools from really, really early on, right?
Right. Yeah, that's right. And by the time, that brain is school age, they have enough self-control to go by themselves and do all the things you've taught them to do, like pick up a book or, have a good cry or phone a friend to calm down. So yeah, that's great. That's a good description.
Okay, so the next one I want to talk about is choices. So this is something we can use even with 1 or 2 year olds, 3 or 5 year olds. It's just that the way we use this differs at different age. So talk to us a little about choices and give us a couple of examples.
Okay, so choices are about empowerment. So everybody likes to feel in control, and even little toddlers want to feel they're in control because they have so little control. So giving them choices lets them decide. And so an example would be, they have to be choices you're okay with. So I used to say to my kids, would you like to hop to bed, or do you want me to carry you to bed? Or would you like me to dance with you as we go up to bed? Okay, so the end result is we're heading to bed, but how do you want to get there, kind of thing. In teenagers, I even say, okay, we're done dinner. Would you like to wash the pots, or do you want to sweep the floor? Right, so you're still helping.
But I like those.
They're still contributing, but they get to choose how. And actually, we've done, that's really, really good for things like chores as they get into school age years.
And okay, so I just realized we're kind of starting to run out of time for this segment. So before we wind up, there is one tool I definitely want to talk about. This is a tool that all of us know about. It's in all our toolkits, but for some reason, it's the most underused tool. and this is the parent timeout. So talk to us a little about why parent timeout is such an important tool.
Well, I think for one thing, parents need time off regularly to be good to themselves, fill their buckets. You know, parents always hear that, but they never really sit down and do it. And parents with their partners too. But the parent timeout is in the moment of anger, when we make really bad decisions. That's when we punish, is because we're angry, we're stressed, we have things on our plate, and in the back of our mind, we're thinking, I have to discipline, I have to punish this, or they're going to keep doing it. And if we calm down, we can think of much better ways to teach. And there's no research that shows that you have to attend to the discipline issue right away. You can take 10 minutes, you can put your toddler in the crib, take 10 minutes, breathe, calm down, and then decide what you're going to do. And then come back.
And a parent timeout could be as simple as going and locking yourself inside the bathroom and just splashing water on your face, or or if your child needs to be watched, then just sitting down on the couch and counting till 10, whatever needs to be done, right? But it's important that we get in the habit of doing that.
Yeah. And even putting on headphones, like in the book, I talk about ways to take a time out while you have kids there, right? It's ways that you're just taking maybe even an emotional break, or there's ways you could do that.
Love that. Okay, so with that, we are going to wind up this first segment of the Positive Discipline Tools Masterclass. So our expert guide today is Judy Arnall. This masterclass is inspired by the book Discipline Without Distress. So even though we were able to talk about just a handful of tools today, I hope we've given you enough to try and kind of explore. The book, Discipline Without Distress, that is the motivation for this masterclass, has 135 different tools that Judy talks about, and they're all non-punitive and respectful, and they're all backed by solid research and reasoning about why they work and how to make them most effective, right? So there's just no way we can cover everything in a 1 hour masterclass. So I highly, highly recommend that you grab a copy of this book. It should be available in all bookstores and libraries. Okay, so we're going to stop now, and we're going to look at, in the next segment, we're going to look at some tools for school-aged kids. For those of you who also have school-aged kids, or whose kids are getting closer to that age bracket, please come and join us again for that second segment. If your child is too young and if you don't have the time right now to watch that masterclass, then be sure to join us for the challenge segment that's going to come in the end. All right, so we'll see you all in a bit. Bye-bye. All right, so what do you think? Okay, did it go okay?